Hi folks, I'm doing a little bit of work on the fans and lighting for Project Old Faithful. This is the blue LED Akasa 80mm fan, and of course we need to take out the blue LEDs and put in white ones. In the end we settled on two types of fan. We're going to be having either rainbow colours or white. So this means that this one, which has 4 different colour LEDs in it, is going to remain as it is. We're not going to do anything with that one. And although this is a white Revoltech fan and would fit the colour scheme, I'm going to use my Thermal Take rainbow LED fan instead. I'll probably show you that a little bit later or in a later video. You may have seen it because we used it when we were doing some tests with some lighting ideas and some fan ideas with Project Old Faithful in its early stages. It's a fan that's quite noisy, but it does move a lot of air. We'll probably just run that in Project Old Faithful on 7 volts. So that would work quite well. I think there's a nice kind of consistent theme then. So the front fan basically will be rainbow coloured. The two back fans, one will be white, one will be rainbow coloured, and then of course we will have these lighting strips which are white. I think that's going to look quite effective in the end, and my daughter is quite happy with that. So back to this, we've got to look at how we can get into the LEDs. Now these fans use 3mm rather than 5mm LEDs, and there's like a rubber ring that goes around the outside, you can probably see. That basically protects everything and keeps it in place. So the first thing that we need to do is to remove this rubber ring, and I think what we'll need is probably a couple of flat screwdrivers. Perhaps just to get a little bit of leverage on it. Hopefully we won't cause any damage, but if we get these underneath here, as you can see, it will move the rubber. And if we can just get it to flip over a corner, there we go. That should now come off. There we go. So that's off. We will save that because we will put it back on again when we've finished. So here we go. You can see the existing wiring, which just runs around the edge here, and you can just see where these LEDs are. What we're going to have to do is break the solder joints about here and put the new ones in. It's quite a fiddly job, but it's possible to do it. We've got one here that looks like it's been hot glued into position as well. So that's what we're going to have a go at doing now. We'll get the soldering iron set up and we'll make a start. Just taking a closer look at the way these LEDs are wired in, and what they've done is basically not cut the legs of the LEDs at all. So the legs come all the way down here, and then we've got a couple of wires attached which go around to the next LED, and there's the 2 wires soldered further up the legs which come from the previous LED, or in this case from the power source itself. So what we're going to have to do is unsolder these and these, then lift the LED out and put the new one in, but it means we don't have to cut the legs of the LEDs. Well, that's quite useful because you need to know which is the positive and which is the negative. The long leg is the positive. You must get it the right way around. If you put it the wrong way around, you will just burn out the LED. The only one we're possibly going to have to cut is the final LED in the chain. You can also tell by looking at an LED which is positive and which is negative. If I could just open up my pack here of 3mm cool white LEDs. Let's just pull one out. So as I say, the long leg is positive, the small leg is negative. But when you look inside, well, these are very, very small, you probably can't see. But it's the other way around. There's two pieces of metal in there. The larger piece is the negative and the smaller piece is the positive. So you can also tell by looking in the LED. So if you do end up cutting the legs before you've had a chance to determine which is positive and which is negative, even the LED itself will tell you. Right, so just see if my soldering iron is up to temperature, and it appears to be. So let's have a go at unsoldering this first LED. And this is just going to be a matter of loosening the solder, or melting the solder. We've also got a bit of glue in there as well. There we go. Now I'm assuming on here we have grey as the positive and white as the negative. In fact, I'm not assuming, I've seen that that's the case. So I can remember which cable's which. There's still a lot of glue on here as well from where they've been glued in place. So we might have to redo that. There we go. That's easy enough. So hopefully, there we go. Yeah, I've melted some of the glue, but that's the old blue LED removed. I will keep that because it's perfectly usable, particularly as the legs haven't been cut. So that will go in my little box of electronic components and be reused. So let's get the next one, or our first white one, out. Pop it back in, remembering which way it was pointing. Lay the legs down, just splay them a little bit. No heat shrink on here, that's good. So what we need to do now is just resolder those cables back on. Might need to clean them up a little bit to get rid of some of the glue. So if you just give me a few minutes, we'll get that done. Okay, so the first one is done. It's all soldered in place and it's working. It's probably difficult to see in this light. It is actually white, although this fan case does have a slight blue hint to it, but that will become less pronounced as we remove more of the blue LEDs. So that was much easier than I thought it was going to be. So we'll get cracking and work on the other three. Okay, so I'm just onto the second LED now, and I just want to show you how simple it is to reconnect everything back up. Obviously, you need to be able to hold this steady while you resolder. But you need to be able to hold solder on a soldering iron. Well, here's the way I do it. I stick some solder onto the tip of the soldering iron, and I will line up the wire, pop the solder on, let go, hold it for a few seconds while the solder cools, and there we go. You have a connection. The advantage here is that because these have already been connected up, the wires have already been tinned, so it's reasonably easy to get them to go where you want them to, providing you can get your fingers in. There we go. And again, we'll just do the same with the other two, and that is basically what we're going to carry on doing as we go around the fan. Well, this is all 4 LEDs replaced, so we now have 4 white LEDs. They still look a little bit blue, I think, with this camera, but that is actually the effect that I was hoping for. So although the casing did seem to have a blue hint to it, it certainly isn't affecting the way these LEDs work. So there we go. That was probably about 10 minutes just to swap those LEDs out. So we're just going to glue the wires down, and we'll stick the rubber cover back on. So here we are with everything restored to its previous state. It's not quite as flush as I'd like it. That's because, well, the glue is probably not quite as smooth as I'd like it to be, and obviously resoldered as well, so there's a bit more solder. So given that there's going to be two 80mm fans together in the case, we're going to have to think about how I place them. Perhaps put this one on the bottom, and that bit will go on the top. But it works. I'm pleased with it. So here we go, folks. And this is the set of fans and lighting that's going to be going in Project Old Faithful. Let's just turn some lights off in here. There we go. So we've got the two white strip lights, we've got the white LED fan which we've just done, and I have to say they certainly do kick out a lot of light. And then we've got the rainbow 80mm and the flashing rainbow 120mm, and actually I think they go together really well. So that is going to create some really nice lighting. I think in Project Old Faithful it's certainly going to work better than the purple LEDs. These are at the stage where they probably are ready to go in the case, so probably the next time you see these will be when we put them in. So thank you for bearing with me on this one. Thank you for watching. Hope you found the bit on actually replacing the LEDs useful. If you fancy having a go yourself, then you know it's not too difficult a job. Just be patient, take your time, and there's no reason why you can't change out LEDs yourself if you fancy something a little different. So thank you very much.